Oh no!
So it's been nearly a year, but here we are, ready to show the process of making Runaway Kid from the first Little Nightmares as a plush. Right, Mono? We will make him with just as much love and care. Hello and welcome back, wanderers and storytellers. I am your host, Bettimus, and today I have a video that I've been holding on to for nearly a year. Why a year, you may ask? I have no other reason other than it fell to the wayside as other projects came along. But plushie Runaway Kid's birthday is coming up on August 15th, and this should have been out way before then. I'm just terrible at keeping up with my ideas. So this is how I made Runaway Kid. We snipping the pieces for Runaway Kid's body, and Mono being a curious, supportive little being every step of the way. Nearly all the steps are identical to Mono's up until the clothes and on. But funny thing about handmade and DIY projects, the results are never quite the same. Cutting the pieces is a pretty straightforward process. All pieces are cut out and ready for sewing. I would like to mention that when making RK, I didn't stream any of it, so hopefully the quality doesn't bounce back and forth like it did with Mono's video. Again, sorry for that. Making Runaway Kid took me one day less than it took me to make Mono, which I believe Mono was 6 days, so RK was 5 days. I also kept a record of every time I poked myself while sewing. The answer is 23. Look, Mono, step by step, we're getting there. This is going to be your little brother. If you haven't seen any of my other plush videos, then you might notice Mono now wears a cute bow tie. It is now a permanent piece to his outfit. And now for the eyes. I find button eyes a lot more cuter to use. There's no expression the plush is stuck with, like many other plushes I've seen. And they feel more homey this way, leaving more room for imagination. The mouth is hand embroidered, as the face is lined with felt for good support and to avoid puckering of the main fabric. And embroidering is quite the process, and a few times I had to undo knots that formed while embroidering. Got that done, now it's time to sew the headpieces. Boop! Magic of editing. For RK, I gave him a pink heart. Turning these plushes right side out is a whole endeavor of itself. Lots of wiggling. Then I'll stuff a bit of the legs and stuff the feet. It makes it easier to sew together. If I do make another plush, then it'll probably be a gnome, but as of now, I haven't attempted to make any more. I just don't have that need or want at the moment. And if you haven't guessed by the opening animatic, no, 6 is not worth the time. I've made it clear enough. I don't care for that traitor. Now, Girl in the Yellow Raincoat is a different story. As you can see, I do have to go back and hand stitch close whatever I missed when I ran the fabric through the machine. Thankfully, the fabric is very forgiving and hides seams well. Once the gaps are mended, it's time to stuff him up and get the head ready. Gotta make sure RK is the right amount of cuddly. In this case, I didn't stuff his arms too much at the shoulders, so his hands hang lower after all is said and done. Setting RK's body and head aside for now, I have to make his clothes before attaching his head. It's easier this way, so his head doesn't get in the way while measuring and sewing on the clothes. So for Mono, I made his shirt specifically snug because I wanted to make sure it can be tucked into his pants and the coat can slip on with little resistance. But for Runaway Kid, his shirt is going over his pants and I want it to be a little bit loose around his arms. They kind of look like PJs. So bigger size shirt, here we go! And I did have to take RK's measurements separately because he was already different from Mono. Time for the pants. This was the only fabric I had of this color at the time. It's kind of like a fake suede, I think. Voltron wanted attention. Gotta feed the pants through the machine. Not gonna lie, trying to slip on the pants was difficult since the fabric had no stretch to it. The pants are now on, so I can now stuff the lower half of the body. Then stitching up the shirt. Double check it's coming along. It may look long, but that's going to be stitched in. Time to cut and add the collar. I'll admit that working small is difficult for me. My hands tend to shake a lot more than they should. But it is what it is. Since the collar piece was so thin, I had to use a lot of paper to support the fabric and to keep it from being eaten by the machine. When I first played through the Little Nightmares DLC, I was already spoiled on Runaway Kid's fate, unfortunately. So I didn't get as heartbroken as I did with Mono's fate. I had already been prepared, and yet over time, Runaway Kid's fate made me sad too. So like Mono, I made this arcade plush to give him a hug and a home away from those nightmares. So, because the shirt is going to end up just a bit snug on his upper body, I have to sew on his head first. I attach the head by going around the neck twice, so it's well in place. As the seams close up the gap between the head and the shoulders, it gets a little harder to see what I'm doing. But eventually I make the last knot, and his head is securely in place. Putting pins in place so I get a better idea where to stitch. I try to line the string with the stitching that was made by the machine, since on Runaway Kid's design there are no buttons in sight. We are so close to finishing Runaway Kid, and yet so very far. I use this extra piece of hair to figure out roughly the length I'm going to need to cut his hair. Let's sit him next to Mama. Oh, look at them. Best friends already. Runaway Kid's hair is a little longer than Mono's hair. Okay, a lot longer. So he's not going to need the multiple layers like Mono did. Mono saying hello. Repeat. I'm visualizing the hair before I start tracing the pattern onto the fabric. Instead of cutting out the pieces first, I pinned the fabrics, then sew onto the pattern, leaving just enough of a gap to turn the pieces right side out. What I will be adding are his little alfalfa hairs on top. Now for the tedious process of cutting out the bits of hair. The pair of larger fabrics that make up the hair on the back of the head had to be sewn together before I set them in place. You can kind of see the length difference here. All the hair bits are ready, but I first pinned them all into place on his head so that I don't lose the placements. And not gonna lie, I was so eager to see the ending results. And I do purposely make his hair short enough for his eyes to show. That's just a me thing. I want to be able to see his eyes. And finally, to make the shackle. I give it a functioning button and buttonhole so it can be removed whenever he feels like it. It's just a fashion statement at this point. And he is complete! My little sons. And do be on the lookout for Runaway Kid's birthday video. Like I said, it's on August 15th. Just something cute to celebrate. Ah, my heart! These boys are the cutest! Well, I hope you enjoyed this old video. It's not the only old video that had fallen to the wayside when other ideas came up, but I have hope that I'll get to show them to you guys eventually. And thank you guys for the fan art. It puts a huge smile on my face, and I've heard from a few of you that I have inspired you. That, to me, is nearly mind-blowing. Like, it is my ultimate goal to inspire, but hearing it from you guys is just like, well, I have no words. And so, for now, I'd like to give a shout out to my patron supporter, Private Vintage. If you too would like shoutouts at the end of my videos, or even shoutouts during my streams and monthly goodies, check out my Patreon, or even check out my Ko-fi site for one-time donations, or to even commission me for some art. Links in the description. There's also a Discord link down there for you to check out. And if you're up for it, I stream Thursdays, Saturdays, start times generally around 12:30 a.m. and on for about 6 to 8 hours on average Pacific Standard Time. There is also the occasional Tuesdays that I'll stream. All my socials can be found in the description below, and I think that just about does it for this video. You have been a lovely bunch. Love ya! And until next time, adventurers, storytellers, and coffee lovers, stay cozy!